life of Maulana Rumi, Jalaluddin Rumi, better known simply as Rumi, was perhaps the finest Persian poet of all time and a great influence on Muslim writing and culture. His poetry is still well known throughout the modern world, and he is one of the best-selling poets in America. In the heart of the Persian Empire, in the city of Balkh, on September 30th, 1207, a child was born who would one day illuminate the world with his words of love and spiritual insight. His name was Jalal ad-Din Muhammad, but history would come to know him as Maulana Rumi. Rumi's father, Baha al-Din Walid, was a respected scholar and preacher. He was known as the Sultan of the Scholars, and he passed on to his son not only his knowledge but also a deep love for spiritual truths. Baha al-Din, Jalal ad-Din, remember, knowledge without love is incomplete. True wisdom comes from understanding the heart, not just the mind. Young Rumi, innocently, but father, how do I understand the heart? Baha al-Din, smiling, you will learn, my son. Through life's journey, the heart will reveal its secrets. Rumi spent his early years, like many Muslims of the time, learning and studying Arabic, law, ahadith, the body of sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, history, the Quran, theology, philosophy, mathematics and astronomy. Rumi's family was forced to leave Balkh when he was just a young boy, fleeing the Mongol invasions that swept across the land. Their journey would take them through various cities of the Islamic world. From Nishapur to Baghdad and beyond, young Rumi, to his father, "Father, why do we leave our home?" Baha al-Din, sometimes, my son, we must leave what is familiar to find the path Allah has set for us. This journey will guide you towards the destiny you cannot yet see. In Nishapur, Rumi encountered Fariduddin Attar, a famed Sufi poet and mystic. This meeting would plant the seeds of spiritual awakening in the young Rumi's heart. Attar, smiling, looking at young Rumi, "Ah, Baha al-Din, your son has the light of greatness in his eyes. He will one day ignite hearts with his love of God." Attar hands a copy of his famous book, The Conference of the Birds, to young Rumi. Attar, keep this, young one. It will guide you in the ways of the soul. Young Rumi, with wide eyes, thank you, master. Eventually, Rumi's family settled in Konya, in present-day Turkey. Here, Rumi's formal education flourished. He studied Islamic jurisprudence, theology, and philosophy, and became known as an intellectual prodigy by his teachers and fellow students. Teenage Rumi, discussing with a teacher, knowledge is vast, but why does it feel like there's something more? Something beyond these words on the page, teacher, smiling, that is the voice of your soul, Jalal ad-Din. To understand what lies beyond, one must experience, not just learn. In 1231, Baha al-Din Walid passed away, leaving Rumi in deep sorrow. But this loss also marked the beginning of Rumi's spiritual awakening, as he stepped into his father's role as a scholar and preacher in Konya. By the time of his father's death he had become an outstanding scholar in his own right, and took over his father's position as one of the highest scholars in the country at the young age of 24. Rumi, to himself, "Father, your wisdom guided me, but now I must find my own path. The world is full of answers. But where do I seek the truth?" He spent his time teaching and giving lectures to the public, and until the age of about 35, lived a fairly nondescript life. Rumi's teachings began to attract followers from far and wide. He became not only a scholar but also a spiritual guide, drawing people to his profound wisdom and insight into the human heart. Rumi, to his students, true knowledge is not found in books alone. It is written on the heart, in the way we connect to Allah, and in how we love each other. Though Rumi had already risen as a respected scholar and spiritual leader, the most significant chapter of his life was yet to begin, the arrival of Shams of Tabriz, a wandering mystic who would ignite the flame of divine love in Rumi's soul and forever change the course of his life and poetry. The journey continues. Allah, guide me to the truth that lies beyond. This is only the beginning of Rumi's journey, the foundation of a legacy that would later inspire hearts and souls across the world for centuries to come. In the autumn of 1244, Rumi's life took an unexpected turn when he crossed paths with Shams of Tabriz, a wandering mystic. This meeting would forever change Rumi's life, transforming him from a scholar into a mystic and poet of divine love. Shams, to Rumi, breaking the silence, Tell me, scholar, who is greater, Prophet Muhammad or Bayezid Bistami, Rumi? How can there be any comparison between the two? Muhammad is the prophet of God, while Bayezid is but a saint. Shams, smiling enigmatically, indeed. But why then did Muhammad pray, O God, I have not known you as you deserve, while Bayezid proclaimed, Glory be to me. How great is my glory, Rumi pauses, deeply contemplative. He realizes that Shams is asking a question that transcends mere logic. Rumi, deeply moved by the question, realizing its spiritual depth, perhaps Bayezid had only a glimpse of the divine. And in that moment, he was overwhelmed. But the prophet, in his humility, understood the vastness of God's reality and knew that no one could fully comprehend his majesty. Shams smiles approvingly, and from this moment, a spiritual bond is forged between them. That moment sparked an intense spiritual connection between Rumi and Shams. Over the next few years, Shams would guide Rumi through the mystical dimensions of divine love, breaking the bounds of traditional scholarship and leading him into the depths of the heart. Shams became fast friends with Rumi, in whom he recognized a kindred spirit. The two developed a very close friendship, and it was at this point that Rumi became more and more secluded, shunning the society of those he previously would discuss and debate matters with. Their bond was one of teacher and student, but it transcended ordinary roles. Shams opened Rumi's heart to the divine mysteries of love, guiding him away from conventional scholarship and into the realm of deep spiritual insight. Rumi, to Shams, love is the bridge between you and everything, is it not? It is what connects us to the divine, beyond all words and reason. Shams, nodding, indeed, love is not something you can learn. Indeed, love is not something you can learn. It is something you must become. It is the language of God. It was during this period of intense companionship with Shams that Rumi began composing his most passionate poetry, expressing his soul's yearning for God and his profound love for his friend and teacher. The once vibrant, joyful atmosphere around Rumi begins to change as rumors and jealousy spread among Rumi's followers. They grow suspicious of Shams, resenting the attention Rumi gives him over his own students and family, yet not all were pleased with the influence Shams had over Rumi. His disciples and family began to feel sidelined, and envy began to brew among them. One evening, Shams disappears without a trace. The camera shows Rumi in his home, frantically searching for Shams in the streets of Konya, his heart heavy with grief and longing. Rumi, to himself, in desperation, where is he? My guide, my friend. How can I walk this path alone? Shams' sudden disappearance left Rumi in profound sorrow. The world, which once glowed with the light of love and divine wisdom, now felt dark and empty without his beloved companion. Though devastated by Shams' departure, Rumi turns inward and begins to seek the divine within himself. In this deep state of longing, he begins to whirl, spinning in ecstasy as a form of meditation and worship. Rumi's grief transformed into a new phase of his spiritual journey. He realized that Shams had not truly left him, but had become a part of him. It was through this realization that Rumi birthed the practice of the whirling dervishes, a dance of divine love, spinning toward the truth. The whirling was not just a physical movement, it symbolized the soul's journey toward union with the divine. As Rumi and his followers spun, they transcended the physical world, seeking to become one with the eternal. He wrote numerous lines of love poetry, called ghazals, but though they outwardly seem to be about Shams, it is not difficult to see that they are in fact poems describing his overpowering love of God. Though Shams was gone, his presence continued to guide Rumi. Over the years, Rumi's poetry blossomed, becoming a reflection of the divine love that he had found both in his friend and within his own heart. Shams' effect on Rumi was decisive. Whereas Rumi had before preached Islam soberly, he became, through Shams' influence, filled with the love of God. What was inside his soul finally came out. Rumi was like a purely clean lamp, where the oil was poured in the holder and a wick placed therein, ready to be lit, and Shams was the spark to set it afire. Rumi's words, I am not this hair. I am not this skin, I am the soul that lives within. You were born with wings, why prefer to crawl through life, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing? There is a field. I'll meet you there, Indeed, Shamsi Tabrizi is but a pretext, it is I who display the beauty of God's gentleness. Rumi rarely wrote down his own poetry. The 6 books of poetry in the Mathnawi were written entirely by Rumi, who would compose and dictate the poetry, and his student Husam Chalabi, who would write and edit it. It is believed that Rumi would turn round and round while reciting his poetry, and it is this dance which formed the basis for the Mevlevi order, or whirling dervishes, after his death. Dervish means doorway, and the dance is believed to be a mystical portal between the earthly and cosmic worlds. Rumi died in 1273 CE, halfway through the 6th volume of the Mathnawi. 2007 was designated the UNESCO Year of Rumi. Rumi's major works consist of 2 epic poems. The first is the Diwani Shamsi Tabrizi, named in honor of his friend Shams. It is often abbreviated to Diwan. It consists of about 40,000 verses in a vibrant and energetic style. It has been suggested that the Diwan represents Rumi's feelings while in a dance-induced spiritual state. The Mathnawi is his other seminal work. It consists of 25,000 verses, in 6 books of poetry. The Mathnawi was written at the same time as the Diwan, and was probably intended to place the Diwan within the wider context of Islam. It is regarded as an explanation of some aspects of the Quran, placed within a more Sufi context. That Mathnawi is a commentary upon these mystical states and stations. It places them within the overall context of Islamic and Sufi teachings and practice. Indeed, the problem with many translations of Rumi's work is the separation of his poems on love from his belief in God and Islam. Many translations of his work have become mere love poems, and Rumi himself has become known as a love poet. Love is an overwhelming part of Rumi's work, but for Rumi, this love was a higher love for God, and not for humans. Rumi says, I am the servant of the Quran as long as I have life. I am the dust on the path of Muhammad, the chosen one. If anyone quotes anything except this from my sayings, I am quit of him and outraged by these words. Nevertheless, the imagery and language used in his poetry has transcended cultures and seas. This was Rumi's legacy, a message of unity, love, and the eternal search for the divine within and beyond.